during the 1973 Yom Kippur War. So the Rebbe is going to connect what the main Noach were for with the effect that the war had, and how also the soldiers, what it revealed by them, just like as we will explain, as certain things that can be transformed and made into a positive thing. So we're going to start from the middle of the page, Ois Ches. Bein the Rosh Rabbeinu Siyeinu al Parshas Noach, amongst the Mamorim of the Rabbeim on the Parshas Noach, Yesh Gam Drushim al Pasuk, there's also Mamorim on the Pasuk that it says in Shir Hashirim, Mayim Rabim, the great waters, Lo Yuchlu Lachabes Za'ava, cannot extinguish the love. In other words, that there's a lot of times big things that pile up on us, and these things, but we're soon going to explain what these big things are, they cannot extinguish the love that a Yid has for Hashem. So why did they say a Maimer on a Pasuk in Shir Hashirim? Because they connected the Mayim Rabim with the Mabel. The connection with the Parsha of Noach is Mayim Rab Manal Nikroim Mei Noach, because these great waters are called also the waters of Noach, like it says in the Haftorah, this week's Parsha, taken from Yeshaya, Asher Nishbati Ma'avoir Mei Noach Oid Al Haaretz, that Hashem says in Yeshaya Navi that I swore that the waters of Noach will not pass again upon the earth. And that is called the Mayim Rabim, as we will also talk about what the Mayim Rabim is spiritually. So the Rebbe asked, in a movement seemingly it's not understood. Why is the waters of the Mabel called the waters of Noach? The idea of Noach was being saved from the Mabel, and it was the opposite of Mabel. So in other words, you're naming the waters which are seemingly waters of negativity, of destruction, for the person that was the only one that was saved, and it was the only one that was meant to save the world. It's not Mei Noach, it's the Mei of the Rishoyim that were killed by that Mayim. It's just the opposite. Noach has nothing to do with these waters. Noach is the antithesis of these waters. Why does Yeshaya Navi associate the waters of the Mabel with Noach? The Rebbe says this will be understood Behegdim Shaila Nosefes by prefacing an additional question in the Ge'el L'Chlolos in Mabel concerning the general idea of the flood. If the purpose of the Mabel was only to remove and destroy the sinning people, Hashem has many ways. Why was specifically the punishment of the Mabel chosen? That destroyed the entire world. Not just like in the generation of Enosh that was in Parshas Bereshis, that it says that the ocean flooded a third of the world, but over here it was the entire world. Va'ad, and to such a degree, it didn't just affect the physical globe of planet Earth, but shaloshim shamazolos, that even the constellations, the sun, the moon, the seasons, all these things stopped working. That's why Hashem had to afterwards take an oath that I will not again smite, and the days of the earth of planting and harvesting and day and night will not cease. Why? Because during the Mabel, day and night and seasons, all of that stopped. Bob Bishah, why was it such an extreme type of way at the time? Hashem could have chosen other ways to get rid of those that were sinning at the time of the Mabel. So he says, the explanation of this is, in truth, The purpose of the mabul was like a giant mikveh. It came to cleanse and purify the earth. Shenamar, like it says, Kimala Aretz Chamas, that the earth was filled with robbery. And it was very ruined. And it was necessary for it to be purified. The actual physical earth needed to be purified. The whole world had to be purified because it was so stained and tainted and blemished by the crimes committed. So therefore the mabul specifically came instead of some other means, shehu bechinas mayim, that's the level of water, to be able to purify those that are impure. Skip the brackets, another 4 lines. Shehi kedugmas hamikva memsa, that a mabul is similar to a mikveh of a measure of 40 saw. That is, in other words, the 40 saw is corresponds. That's a certain measure. Shehi mitaher satame, that it purifies someone that is impure. For that reason, the mabul came to cleanse and purify the entire land, and the entire globe, and the entire planet, and the entire even solar system. Therefore, the mabul descended for 40 days. The rain rained for 40 days. Kedugmas hamikveh memsa, similar to a mikveh of 40 saw. Therefore, we find concerning the Eretz Yisrael, it says, Eretz loy mituhara hi v'loy gushama. It's a land that was not purified and was not rained upon. So the Medrash says upon this, the Chazal say upon this, what does this mean? It was not purified and not rained upon, because the Chazal bring down that even though the whole earth suffered from the mabul, but there was one location where the mabul did not descend. It was not in Eretz Yisrael. That there's actually a deficiency in the fact that in Eretz Yisrael the mabul did not come down. Since it was not rained upon, gushama from the word geshem, therefore it's not purified. So we see that the mission of the mabul was the purification of the world. Since the idea of the mabul was to affect purification of the world, therefore the waters of the mabul are called the waters of Noach. Because from this came about the pleasantness of the spirit. In other words, it came about a pleasing spirit, like it's brought down in Chazal. Noach is from the word nachas ruach, and pleasantness. So that's why it's called Mei Noach. So our original question is, how is it called Mei Noach, the waters of Noach? Noach was the complete antithesis of the mabul. Why would we call it after Noach? So he's saying, no, the mabul's essential core purpose was purification. And that's why it has to do with Noach. Noach is in the word pleasing. That's one reason. And further, also the idea of Noach was to establish the world anew in a good and pure way. So therefore the mabul was that mikveh that established the purity of the world. And this matter of service of a person of Hashem, what does this mean? That we also have things that are seemingly negative, but really they bring out deeper and the aspects of our being, and they purify us. It's explained, the great waters, the flood waters, it's like our mind being flooded. with all the burdens of making a living. And in general, thoughts of worldly matters are like raging waters in our mind. It's like our mind is being flooded. The thoughts are likened to rivers that are constantly moving and going and traveling, because our thoughts are the whole time rushing. The imkolzeh, despite all of those rushing thoughts in our mind, whether rushing thoughts in our mind of making a living, or other rushing thoughts in our mind that are seemingly disrupting our avodah, lo yuchlu chavas ha'ava, they're not able to extinguish the love. Shehi bechinas ha'ava musteres sheyesh b'chol nefesh b'Yisrael b'teva. That's the concealed love that's to be found in every Jewish person by nature. La'alois v'likol tamid l'mayla, to rise up and to become constantly and always part above kishal heves ha'olam ha'ilal, like a flame that rises on its own, that it draws upwards. The same thing, every single Jewish person has an innate love for Hashem that by itself rises upwards. Like it says earlier in Shir Hashirim, its coals are coals of fire, it's a flame of God. Therefore the neshama, even after it becomes enclosed in the physical body, lasik binyonim gashmim, to be involved in physical matters, sheheina nekroim mayim rabim, that the physical matters, like we just now said before, are called the great waters. Im kol zeh still and all, lo yuchlu lechaboisa, they cannot extinguish it, miliyos tamid v'chinas ava v'tshuka niflam, from being in a great and powerful love and desire, lalis likolo l'mayla, to go up and to become subsumed above in Hashem. V'hainu, the Rebbe says, this means shaloi zulavat shleif l'lavat l'mekoil v'koil v'tishoy k'vishoyis m'suteres. Not only do we not say that it's impossible to nullify the love completely, but and since it's not nullified completely, it will remain, but it will remain dormant, it will remain concealed, like fire that can be concealed in a coal, that not always does a fire come out of the coal, it's hidden in the coal. Even more so, this great, powerful waters of all the preoccupations that my mind is rushing in so many different directions cannot even extinguish it from being revealed, an open flame of God. And this is a very important thing. This is crucial to the whole point that the Rebbe is going to say over here in the Sikha. Even more so, it's not just that it cannot extinguish, but just like the waters of the Mabel cause a purification in the world and cause an elevation in the world, so too, and it brought a nachas ruach mei Noach, so too Aidei Slapshus b'mayim rab manal, through the neshama descending down here and becoming enclosed in these great waters, yichoy lahagia lamadrega hayosu gavoya mekodim shiyodu loylam hazeh, then the neshama can reach to a greater level than it was prior to descending to this world. This explanation on the question, why did Hashem do this? To place a Jew in a state and situation of bothers, of making a living, or all the other physical, material things that are disturbing our thoughts and flooding our brains and flooding our internet and our phones and so on. But often in such a manner does it flood us, that the Torah testifies, that the Torah testifies these are stormy waters, like rivers that are going and flooding. Sorry, didn't turn the page. Second line, despite the fact that there are flooded rivers and there are stormy waters, they cannot extinguish the love, and they will not flood it. Not only does nothing become or lessened through the persons being involved in worldly matters. Why is it not being lessened? Since we are using this for holy matters. Through using the money that a person makes a living from for educating children for Torah mitzvahs, and we're using the money and to marry off our daughters to Torah scholars, like Baal Shem Tov says. In addition to the fact that he's using the money for positive things, even more so, because of the acceptance of the yoke of heaven. Is someone that accepts upon himself the yoke of heaven. The way he acts is in a way that initially he goes over. Like the phrase of the and the saying of the Reb Marash, even when he's involved in worldly matters. He thinks into the fact, and he sees that there is a owner for this building. You don't have to be a great sage and a Talmud Chacham and someone sitting learning all day, but even someone that's involved in business could understand and see how Hashem runs the world. And when he thinks into it and realizes, even when he's preoccupied with worldly matters, that Hashem runs the world, so then it's awakened and it becomes inflamed, his heart, to be a burning fire in the love of Hashem, that it becomes revealed and becomes even more powerful because of the great love. Because the great waters, the stormy waters, actually evoked in him even more so. So now the Rebbe is going to apply this more in the news of those days during the Yom Kippur War. How the specifics and the attack and the situation during the war evoked by Yidden, in other words, the Mayim Rabim of the war, evoked by Yidden the great connection to Hashem and the great love for Hashem. So he says, in addition to the above mentioned explanation in the Maimor Chassidus, there's also the simple meaning. That the pasuk does not leave its simple meaning, like Rashi explains on the pasuk in Shir Hashirim of Mayim Rabim in the Medrash. So Chassidus says Mayim Rabim is talking about the rushing waters of my mind, the rushing rivers of thoughts that are constantly bombarding me. Who is the Mayim Rabim according to Rashi and according to the Medrash? Shemayim Rabim Hema Umas. The great waters, the raging waters, the stormy waters are the nations of the world. The Naharis and the rivers, Hem Sareyim Ul Malcheyim, those are their ministers and their kings. Shelo Yuchlu Lachabes Es Ha'ava Sha'Kadosh Baruch Hu Oyev LiYisrael, that they cannot extinguish the love that Hashem has for the Yid. V'chein, and also they cannot extinguish, the nations of the world cannot extinguish ha'avish of Bnei Yisrael HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the love that the Yidden have to Hashem. Sharei HaKadosh Baruch Hu beis dinoi me'idim, because Hashem and his divine heavenly court testify. Shekach Knesset Yisrael misrapekes al doido, so too the Knesset Yisrael connect and rely and knock on the door of its beloved of Hashem. The Gam Kan, and also here, Hareze be'oifen shaydei hamayim rabim. It's in such a manner that through the stormy waters, meaning Umas ha'olam shekamim al Yisrael, when the nations of the world rise against the Yidden, So just like the waters of Noach caused the purity, and just like the waters of the burden of the making a living and the rushing thoughts in my mind bring about the great love, the same thing the nations of the world, through that, is Mizgala ha'avish of B'nai Yisrael, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu becomes revealed the love of Yidden to Hashem. Even though in general one needs to open up and study books of Chassidus, that every person has a concealed love for Hashem. And sadly, people that don't study Chassidus do not appreciate this about every single Yid, that every single Yid, whoever he is, has this innate and concealed love for Hashem. So why do we know? What are we special? Because we have a Tanya, we have Chassidus, we open it up, we hear what the Rebbe says, so we know it. Otherwise, if we do not have those books, so then we do not realize that. That's not something that's evident, the love that a Yid has for Hashem. Through the stormy waters, Mizgala hadover ba'ofen hanir b'chush. So then the matter becomes revealed in a way that one can see with their senses. One does not need to open up a book for it. Kifi she'ira b'yamim hachi achroinim, that like it occurred in the latter days. In other words, he's referring, this is during the Yom Kippur War. Shakshar umas ha'olam b'rotzel l'natzel anchapen sich eze inin shchalishus sheroe til Yehudi befrat mesuyim be'inin shel Torah mitzvahs, when the nations of the world wanted to take hold of and a particular matter of weakness that they saw by Yid and a particular aspect of Torah mitzvahs. So he nebepoiled, just in actuality, Gorem Adover. This caused Lihisoiris Nekudas Hayadus B'Yeser Seis V'Yeser Ois. This caused the awakening of the Pintel Yid, of the core Jew inside, should be inspired and awakened much more powerfully and much stronger. Kefi Sha'adover Hizbate B'Dvarav Shel Echad HaChayolim, like the matter expressed itself in the words of one of the soldiers, as when he's responded to a question. Someone asked one of the soldiers, does he believe? Is he a believer? So he answered, he surely is, now is he's surely a believer. So the Rebbe very interestingly analyzes, what does it mean now? The Lechura, seemingly, Ma Pirusha Achshav Umaymin, what does it mean now he's a believer? He's even older than 20 years old. What does it mean now he says he's a believer? So the Rebbe explains as follows. The idea behind this is, up till now, the belief was in a state of concealment. The ilu achshav, and now hareza ba min ahelam elagilui. This comes from the concealed state to the revealed state, like we said before. The mayim rabim la yuchlu l'chavas ha'ava. Not only does the great waters, the flood waters, not extinguish the love. The Alter Rebbe says, what the Rebbe's been quoting before from the Alter Rebbe, that the great waters actually cause that the Yid reaches a greater love than even when he was above. Not just in such a manner that Hashem desires the heart. So he's a Jew at heart, a cardiac Jew. No, skip the parentheses. This soldier and the soldiers, they are expressing their belief, not just I believe, but they express it in something that has to do with actual fulfillment of mitzvahs. Film, for example, putting on film until his dal min, taking the lulav and esrig, lachre amiras bracha b'kisar roish, after saying a bracha with their head covered, umitoich hakaras toida al sheziko b'kach, and they are even appreciative and they're thankful that the person came and put on film with them, and that the person asked them to go ahead and shake the lulav and esrog. V'chol zeh, and all of this emunah that they have revealed and open, and that expresses itself in action through putting on tefillin and doing other mitzvahs, all of the above is noisef al goydel schusam. This is an addition to their great merit. And in the footnote it says that, according to some people's recollection, it says they themselves are the merit. Lahagin al lafim ve'ravavis b'mnei Yisrael mitach mesiras nefesh larak b'koyach alapoyel, to protect thousands and tens of thousands of Yid out of self-sacrifice. And the self-sacrifice is not just a potential self-sacrifice, but it's an actual self-sacrifice. Because Chassidus talks about that Yidden are higher than Malachim because they have Mesiras Nefesh B'koyach. They have the potential to sacrifice themselves for Hashem. But most Yidden, even throughout the history, did not have to, Baruch Hashem, face that challenge. So it's only B'koyach that the Alter Rebbe speaks about over there in Tanya. And the Rebbe is saying that these soldiers are protecting the Yidden not just with self-sacrifice, that's a potential self-sacrifice, but an actual self-sacrifice. And again, Chassidus explains that there is a difference between Mesiras Nefesh, when it's a momentary Mesiras Nefesh, whereas, as opposed to, the Rebbe often brings down that in the days of Haman, they were for an entire year with Mesiras Nefesh. So the Rebbe says that the same thing, these soldiers, it's not a momentary Mesiras Nefesh. It's not just for one moment. It is actually for a duration of many, many days, one after another, where they have this self-sacrifice. Surely it will become fulfilled by them, where it says, that Hashem, your God, is going amongst your camp, so to save you and to make your enemies fall before you. Therefore, the Pasuk also says one has to act in such a manner that your encampment is holy. Till we have come to fulfillment of the promise, I have brought peace, I have placed peace in the land, and you will lie down without needing to tremble and be fearful. I will lead you upright, with an upright stature.